Hello and welcome to the new and improved 5 for the Future for the week of September 25th. Well, maybe not new and improved per se. I mean, it's the same content and all, just coming to you midweek rather than the end of the week. Signals of change for small business owners aren't exactly breaking news, just something to be aware of. So each week here at 5 for the Future, I will share the most recent 5 signals of change that you need to know about to future-proof your small business in about 5 to 7 minutes. Think about how these signals could impact your business or your customers and suppliers, and try to be a proactive business owner planning for changes coming our way. Eager to get started with this week's 5 signals of change? All right, let's get started with our story number 1, housing and real estate trends. Increasing mortgage rates and a low supply of homes is having a big impact on the availability of entry-level homes these days. So how do we address this problem? Well, cutting the regulatory and zoning restrictions would be a huge first step. Turning not in my backyard, or NIMBY, to YIMBY, yes, in my backyard, when it comes to multifamily housing and lower cost homes would help too. And one daring startup is trying to help sellers not only sell their home, but also their mortgage at the likely much lower fixed rate than today's rates. Future homes are likely to be designed with more climate-friendly features, so keep an eye out for cool construction trends like self-cooling concrete walls that can keep your home cooler in the summer. Perhaps a push for more housing and more climate-friendly housing will finally have an impact on the local government restrictions that make expanding a community so challenging. Something to think about this week. All right, moving on to story number 2, regulating big tech. The U.S. government is going hard after big tech for antitrust violations. Most recently, their victims include Google and Amazon. It's hard to argue that there's plenty of search engine competition when Google has a 91% market share. Amazon's share isn't quite that high on online sales, but they do apparently keep prices artificially high, lock sellers into their platform, and harm their rivals. Do I agree that their market shares and domination are unrivaled? Yes, I do. Do I think they are a monopoly that must be regulated? I'm wary. Now and again, there's a sign that maybe their dominance could be easily toppled. Rewatch our September 8th video for more on that. In other government news, the AI companies are working with U.S. Congress to regulate themselves, warning that AI needs to be held in check so it doesn't, as Elon Musk says, kill us all. The cynic in me believes they're asking for Congress's help because then, when robots begin the apocalypse, big tech CEOs can blame Congress. All right, and with that, let's move on to story number 3, cyber attacks. Casino hotels in Vegas and across the country were unable to allow non-cash-based gambling and could not check in guests to hotels or restaurants after hackers shut them down. Hotel guests couldn't even get into their hotel rooms when their digital keys stopped working. Turns out the hackers were likely teenagers looking to profit by partnering with notorious ransomware gangs. Cyber attacks are one of the top risks according to many C-suite leaders. How are you protecting your business from having data stolen or having your entire online system being shut down? I think it's time to look into that. And moving on to story number 4, an assortment of stories about big business making big money through questionable decisions. First off, corporate bankruptcy is now big money and their top customers are crypto firms. And if that's not your cup of tea, then maybe try buying water rights and auctioning them off to the highest bidder so rich people can fill their swimming pools and giant farms can make giant potatoes for McDonald's French fries, while rural areas run out of water for their homes. Or perhaps you'd rather be a health insurance company so you can mark up the cost of prescription drugs for a huge profit, with some specialty drugs costing 24 times higher than the suggested retail value. You can also protect your profits like Exxon did by covering up any research you uncover about how your product contributes to climate change. Or collect vast amounts of customer data without the customers knowing about it, like the bulk of the car manufacturers these days, collecting way more than you think they should be able to collect about you, and then sharing it with outside parties. More stories in the newsletter, but suffice to say, I am a cynic when it comes to big business caring about much of anything other than short-term profits. And finally, our final story, number 5, aging in the future. The trends are there and they're inescapable. Baby boomers are aging and the rest of us will be impacted. How? We're already starting to see homeless boomers as fixed incomes haven't kept pace with the increases in the housing and rental markets. And older boomers are struggling to find assisted living facilities, since those facilities are struggling to find staff and manage the regulatory hurdles. How will these seniors find the specialized care they need? No easy answers just yet. It's also getting even harder to find a primary care physician, as more of them are retiring and the younger doctors are sticking to the profitable specializations. But you can get rich off of helping Americans with their midlife crisis as people in their 40s and 50s start to plan for living to be 100. Just remind the businesses who cater to the elderly to ask for their input when creating products like companion robots, and don't treat them as passive data points. Ouch. Over time, more businesses will see the value of this $22 trillion longevity economy. Side note, check out the Longevity Games newsletter on Substack. Perhaps science and technology will help us to not appear to age. Imagine an office full of employees who all look like they're 35 years old, but actually range in age from 35 to 75. Weird and kind of science fiction-y, but extremely possible and something to think about. So, all right. Thanks for joining me for this week's 5 for the Future. And of course, consider subscribing to the paid newsletter to get more details, all the links, and my full take on each of the 5 topics. Reach out and I'll share a free newsletter with you so you can see what you're missing out on. And thanks for joining me this week.